The weight of a small voice. The door of the police station burst open, and a sharp gasp of air echoed in the room as a young girl stumbled in. Her bare feet slapped against the cold, tiled floor, and her frail frame shivered with urgency. Clutched tightly in her arms was a dirtied, tattered doll, its yarn hair matted and worn. Tears streamed down her flushed cheeks, carving streaks through the dirt smudged on her face. "Help, please, help." Her voice cut through the hum of activity like a knife. Officers paused mid-conversation, papers froze mid-air, and the room stilled as all eyes turned to her. A burly officer, Officer Daniels, dropped his pen and sprang to his feet, his boots thudding heavily as he approached her. He crouched down, his face softening. "Hey, little one. You're safe now. What's wrong? What happened?" The girl's wide, tear-filled eyes stared back at him. She opened her mouth to speak, but fear tangled her words into a choked sob. After a shaky breath, she finally whispered, "My dad. He's a monster." The weight of her words hung in the air, heavy and disquieting. Daniels exchanged a quick glance with his colleagues, the unspoken understanding passing between them. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she stammered. Her trembling voice carried an urgency that sent chills down Daniel's spine. He knew this wasn't a case of childish imagination. "All right, Lily, let's figure this out." He gestured to a nearby chair. "Come sit down, and we'll get some help." Lily hesitated but shuffled toward the chair, collapsing into it as if the weight of her burden had finally taken its toll. She clutched her doll tighter, her knuckles white, and curled into herself. Daniels quickly called social services, his voice calm but edged with urgency. Amanda, a seasoned social worker known for her compassionate yet determined approach, arrived within 15 minutes. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on the small girl huddled in the corner. Lily was younger than Amanda had expected, no older than 8, with unkempt hair and a stained dress that looked like it had been worn for days. Amanda crouched down, her kind eyes meeting Lily's. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm Amanda. I'm here to help you, okay?" Lily blinked at her, hesitant, but Amanda's gentle tone seemed to chip away at her defenses. "Nobody's going to hurt you here. Can you tell me what's going on?" Through hiccuping sobs, Lily recounted her story. Her father, once loving and kind, had become someone she barely recognized. "He yells all the time. Breaks things," she said, her voice faltering. "I hide under the bed when he gets mad." Amanda's heart broke for the little girl. She leaned in gently. "And your mom, Lily? Is she home with you?" The question hit like a thunderclap. Lily's face crumpled, and fresh tears poured down her cheeks. "My mom died," she whispered. "She's never coming back." Amanda exhaled slowly, her own heart aching. She reached out, offering a tissue. "I'm so sorry, Lily. That must be so hard for you." Lily nodded, her tears falling silently now. She used to make him laugh. Now he's just angry at everything. Even me. Amanda squeezed the girl's hand. "You were so brave to come here, Lily. Now it's my turn to help you. I promise, I'll make sure you're safe." Amanda arrived at Lily's home later that day. The house stood as a shadow of what it once was. Peeling paint, clutter strewn across the porch, and an oppressive silence that seemed to emanate despair. She knocked firmly, and after a moment, the door creaked open to reveal Ethan, Lily's father. His disheveled appearance and hollow eyes told a story of grief and struggle. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice rough with fatigue. "My name is Amanda. I'm a social worker, and I'm here to talk about Lily," she said evenly. "She's worried about you. Can we talk?" Reluctantly, Ethan opened the door wider. The inside of the house mirrored his outward appearance, chaotic and neglected. Amanda stepped in, careful not to let her expression betray her thoughts. "Lily says you've been yelling a lot," Amanda began gently. "Breaking things. She's scared." Ethan's shoulders sagged as he slumped onto the couch. "I'd never hurt her," he said, his voice breaking. But I'm not the same anymore. Not since her mom died. Amanda sat across from him, her voice steady but compassionate. I know you're hurting, Ethan. Losing someone you loved is devastating. But Lily needs you. She needs a father who makes her feel safe. Ethan buried his face in his hands, his body trembling. I know I'm failing her, he whispered. But I don't know how to fix it. At that moment, Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, clutching a crumpled photo. She descended slowly, her gaze fixed on Amanda. When she reached the bottom, she held out the picture, a snapshot of happier times. Ethan and his wife laughing, with a beaming Lily between them. He used to be like this, Lily said softly. He laughed with me. Now he never laughs. Ethan's face crumpled as he averted his gaze, the weight of his daughter's words crushing him. Amanda took the photo gently, her voice firm yet kind. Ethan, this is who Lily needs you to be again. It's not too late, but you have to make the choice to change. Over the next weeks, Amanda worked tirelessly to connect Ethan with counseling and parenting resources. It wasn't an easy road. Progress was slow, and setbacks were frequent. But Ethan began to show glimmers of hope. He started small, cleaning the house, cooking meals, and sitting with Lily to hear about her day. One evening, Lily watched as Ethan struggled to cook dinner, his movements awkward but determined. The smell of burnt garlic filled the air, and she wrinkled her nose. You sure you know what you're doing? She asked, her tone laced with playful doubt. Ethan laughed. A real, unguarded laugh for the first time in months. It was a small moment, but to Lily, it was everything. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but with time and effort, Ethan began to rebuild his relationship with Lily. The once chaotic house became a home again, filled with warmth and the beginnings of joy. And through it all, Amanda remained a steady presence, reminding both father and daughter that even the darkest moments could lead to light. The lesson was clear. Pain could break you, but love, especially the love of a child, could help you piece yourself back together. Ethan wasn't perfect, but he was trying. And for Lily, that was enough. The fragile steps toward healing. Ethan sat alone on the living room couch, staring at the photograph of his family that Lily had handed him weeks ago. His wife's radiant smile beamed back at him, frozen in time. It was the same smile that had once made everything in his world feel right, even on the hardest days. Now it felt like a cruel reminder of how far he'd fallen. Beside him, an untouched cup of coffee grew cold, the bitterness wafting faintly into the room. For the first time in months, Ethan didn't drown himself in alcohol or retreat into anger. Instead, he reached for his phone. His fingers hovered over the screen, trembling as he dialed a number Amanda had given him, a counselor specializing in grief and family healing. The line rang, and Ethan almost hung up, but a calm voice answered. "Hello, this is Dr. Howard's office." Ethan swallowed hard. "Hi. I think I need help. For my daughter. And me." The next few weeks tested every ounce of strength Ethan had. His sessions with Dr. Howard were painful, peeling back the layers of his grief and guilt like raw wounds. He hadn't realized how much anger he'd been carrying, not just at losing his wife, but at himself for not being strong enough to keep it together for Lily. The counselor's words stuck with him after every meeting. "You can't pour from an empty cup, Ethan. If you want to be there for Lily, you have to take care of yourself first." Meanwhile, Amanda continued to visit regularly. She brought small gifts for Lily, books, craft kits, and even a new doll to replace the tattered one she carried everywhere. Lily slowly began to open up, not just to Amanda, but to her father as well. The distance between them, though still palpable, started to shrink. One afternoon, Ethan decided to try something different. He'd been sober for 2 weeks, an accomplishment he hadn't thought possible, and wanted to make the day special. He walked into Lily's room, where she sat cross-legged on the floor, her new doll in hand. "Hey, kiddo," he began, his voice softer than she was used to hearing. "What do you say we bake some cookies?" Your mom's recipe. Lily looked up, her eyebrows furrowed in cautious curiosity. You mean, without burning the kitchen down? Ethan chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Yeah, I'll try not to this time. A small smile tugged at Lily's lips, and she stood up, her doll tucked under her arm. Okay, but if it goes bad, I'm blaming you. The kitchen, which had once been a place of tension and chaos, became a haven that afternoon. Ethan and Lily worked side by side, sifting flour, cracking eggs, and measuring sugar. Ethan's clumsiness drew laughter from Lily, a sound he hadn't heard in what felt like an eternity. Flour dusted the countertops and their faces, but neither seemed to care. As the cookies baked, their sweet aroma filled the house, replacing the bitterness that had lingered for so long. Sitting at the table with 2 mugs of milk, Ethan watched Lily take her first bite. Her eyes widened, and she grinned. They're actually good, she exclaimed, her mouth full. Ethan laughed, a deep, genuine laugh that seemed to shake loose some of the sadness he'd been carrying. Well, don't act so surprised. I had a good teacher, you know. Your mom taught me this recipe. At the mention of her mother, Lily's smile faltered for a moment, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she looked at Ethan with a vulnerability that made his chest tighten. Do you think she'd be proud of us? She asked softly. Ethan reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. I think she'd be more than proud. She'd be happy to see us trying. Ethan continued to attend counseling, and as the weeks turned into months, he started to find his footing. He began taking better care of himself, cleaning the house, and spending quality time with Lily. They started small traditions, movie nights with popcorn, Saturday morning pancake breakfasts, and evening walks around the neighborhood. But healing wasn't a straight line. There were moments when the weight of grief threatened to pull Ethan back into his old habits. On one particularly rough night, he found himself sitting on the edge of his bed, staring at the bottle of whiskey he'd tucked away in the back of a cupboard. His hands trembled as he reached for it, but then he heard Lily's laughter from the living room, where she was watching cartoons. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Not today, he told himself. He stood, grabbed the bottle, and poured its contents down the sink. One evening, Amanda stopped by to check in. She found Ethan and Lily sitting on the porch, Lily's head resting against her father's shoulder as they watched the sun dip below the horizon. The sight warmed Amanda's heart. You two look like you're doing okay, Amanda said, her smile gentle. Ethan stood, brushing his hands on his jeans. Thanks to you, he replied. I don't think we could have made it without your help. Amanda shook her head. You did the hard work, Ethan. I just gave you a push in the right direction. Lily ran up to Amanda, clutching a small notebook she'd been scribbling in. Look, I wrote a story about me and Dad, she said excitedly. She opened the notebook to reveal a series of crayon drawings and simple sentences, each page showing her and Ethan doing something together. Baking cookies, walking in the park, laughing at a movie. Amanda knelt down, flipping through the pages. This is amazing, Lily. You're a great storyteller. Lily beamed. That's because it's a happy story now. Ethan, standing behind her, felt his throat tighten. He hadn't realized just how much his efforts had meant to Lily. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was doing something right. The months stretched into a year, and while life was far from perfect, it was full of moments that mattered. Ethan learned to find joy in the small things, a shared laugh, a quiet evening reading bedtime stories, or the way Lily's eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams. One day, as they stood together in the kitchen, preparing dinner, Lily turned to him and said, You're not a monster anymore, Dad. You're my hero. Ethan froze, her words hitting him like a wave. Tears welled up in his eyes as he knelt down, pulling her into a tight embrace. Thank you, Lily. You're the reason I keep trying. In that moment, Ethan realized that while the road to healing was long, it was worth every step. For Lily, for himself, For the family, they were rebuilding, one day at a time. Rebuilding a legacy. The soft hum of a Saturday morning filled the house. In the kitchen, the smell of pancakes wafted through the air as Ethan flipped a perfectly golden brown one onto a plate. Lily sat at the table, her feet swinging back and forth beneath her chair, her crayon clutched in one hand as she added the finishing touches to her latest drawing. "Dad," she said without looking up, "do you think Mom can see us?" Ethan paused mid-flip, the question catching him off guard. He placed the spatula down carefully and turned to face his daughter. Her brown eyes, so much like her mother's, looked up at him with quiet curiosity. "I think so," he said after a moment. "I think she sees everything we're doing, and I bet she's proud of us, especially you." Lily's face lit up, and she beamed at him before returning to her drawing. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. Every day felt like a small victory now. Each shared laugh, each meal cooked without chaos, and each moment of connection with his daughter. Later that day, Ethan found himself sitting on the living room floor with Lily, helping her piece together a puzzle. It was one of their new traditions, a way to spend time together that didn't involve screens or distractions. The puzzle was a picture of a sunflower field, and Lily was determined to finish it before dinner. Mal grinned. "But we could do it together. Mom used to love flowers, right? Maybe we could plant some for her." Ethan's heart swelled at her thoughtfulness. "I think that's a great idea, Lily. Let's do it." The following weekend, Ethan and Lily stood in their overgrown backyard, armed with gardening tools and packets of seeds. The ground was hard, the weeds stubborn, but they tackled the task with determination. Together, they cleared the space, turning the neglected yard into a blank canvas. "Do you think these will grow fast?" Lily asked, holding up a packet of sunflower seeds. Ethan knelt beside her, showing her how to plant the seeds properly. "Not right away," he admitted, "but with time and care, they'll grow tall and strong." Lily nodded, her small hands carefully patting the soil over the seeds. "Just like us, right?" Ethan froze, her words striking a chord deep within him. He looked at his daughter, her face smudged with dirt, but glowing with hope, and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "Exactly like us," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Over the next few months, the garden became their sanctuary. Every morning, Lily would run to the backyard to check on the sprouts, and every evening, Ethan would join her to water the plants. As the flowers began to bloom, so did their relationship. One day, Amanda stopped by to check on their progress. She found Lily in the garden, proudly showing off the rows of sunflowers, marigolds, and daisies. Ethan stood nearby, his hands on his hips, a content smile on his face. "This is incredible," Amanda said, admiring the vibrant blooms. "You two have really outdone yourselves." "It was Lily's idea," Ethan said, ruffling his daughter's hair. "She wanted to do it for her mom." Amanda crouched down to Lily's level. "You know, your mom would love this. She'd be so proud of both of you." Lily beamed, her smile brighter than the sunflowers surrounding her. "I think she is," she said confidently. As the seasons changed, so did Ethan and Lily's lives. The garden became a symbol of their resilience, a testament to the healing power of love and effort. Neighbors began to notice the transformation, not just of the garden, but of the people who tended it. One afternoon, Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman who lived down the street, stopped by. She admired the garden and struck up a conversation with Ethan and Lily. Soon, other neighbors joined in, bringing seeds, offering advice, and sharing their own stories. The garden became more than just a place of beauty. It became a place of community. Ethan and Lily hosted small gatherings, inviting neighbors to enjoy the flowers and the sense of connection they'd built. It was a far cry from the isolated, chaotic life they'd once lived. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the garden, Lily turned to Ethan with a thoughtful expression. "Do you think we could help other families, Dad? Like Amanda helped us?" Ethan looked at his daughter, astonished by her maturity and compassion. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Lily. We've come so far because people believed in us. It's only right that we do the same for others." Together, they began volunteering with a local community center, helping families in need. Ethan shared his story with other parents, hoping to inspire them to take the first steps toward healing. Lily, meanwhile, worked with other children, teaching them how to plant flowers and care for gardens. Years later, the garden was thriving, and so were Ethan and Lily. Their bond was stronger than ever, built on trust, love, and the shared understanding that growth, whether in a garden or in life, required patience, care, and effort. On the anniversary of her mother's passing, Lily and Ethan planted a new row of sunflowers together. As they worked side by side, Ethan looked at his daughter, now a young woman, and felt a deep sense of pride. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" he said. Lily nodded, her eyes sparkling with determination. "We have, and Mom would be proud." Ethan smiled, pulling her into a hug. "I think she'd be proud of both of us." As they stood in the golden glow of the setting sun, surrounded by the beauty they'd created together, Ethan knew one thing for certain. Their story wasn't one of loss and pain. It was a story of resilience, love, and the enduring power of hope. A garden of hope. The garden stood as a living testament to the journey Ethan and Lily had undertaken, a kaleidoscope of color and life, born from the ashes of grief and struggle. Sunflowers stretched tall toward the sky. Marigolds lined the edges in vibrant orange, and daisies swayed gently in the breeze. It was a place of transformation, not just for the soil, but for the hearts that had poured love into it. One warm afternoon, Ethan and Lily sat together on the wooden bench they had built themselves, overlooking the garden. A group of children played nearby, laughing as they watered plants and dug into the soil with tiny spades. These were families Ethan and Lily had helped, people who had once stood where they had, unsure of how to move forward. Ethan glanced at Lily, now a teenager but still carrying the same spark of determination she'd shown as a little girl. She was speaking to one of the younger children, encouraging him to plant a seed and watch it grow into something amazing. Her kindness and wisdom reflected everything they'd learned together. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride, not just in Lily, but in himself too. He'd stumbled, fallen, and struggled, but he had chosen to rise, to fight for a better life for both of them. It was a journey he knew would never truly end, but it was one he no longer feared. He'd learned that healing wasn't about erasing the pain, but about finding the strength to build something beautiful from it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the garden in hues of gold and amber, Ethan turned to Lily. "You know," he began, "this garden isn't just for your mom. It's for us. It's a reminder that no matter how hard things get, we can always grow. Together." Lily smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "It's like you always say, Dad. We just need time, care, and effort." Ethan chuckled. "You're a quick learner, kiddo." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the flowers sway gently in the evening breeze. The world around them felt peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos they'd once known. It was a moment of clarity, of gratitude, and of hope. The lesson. For those watching or reading their story, the message was clear. Life will throw challenges your way. Grief, pain, anger. But those moments do not define you. What defines you is how you respond, how you choose to rise, and how you plant seeds of hope even in the darkest of times. Ethan and Lily's journey showed that healing takes time, and it's okay to stumble along the way. What matters most is the effort to keep moving forward, to seek help when you need it, and to hold on to the belief that brighter days are possible. Their story was a reminder that love, care, and connection, whether with family, friends, or a supportive community, can turn even the most barren soil into a thriving garden. In the end, life isn't about avoiding hardship. It's about learning to grow through it. Just like a garden, the most beautiful lives are the ones nurtured with patience, perseverance, and love. And just like Ethan and Lily, anyone can find their way back to joy, no matter how lost they may feel. As they sat in their garden that evening, Ethan and Lily weren't just surrounded by flowers. They were surrounded by proof that new beginnings are always possible. All it takes is a single seed of hope.